So last night I was thinking about one of the most underrated and I believe wrongly maligned episodes of Star Trek, the original series. There was a great episode of that series called Spock's Brain. In this episode, Spock's brain is abducted, removed from his body by a woman from an advanced civilization who then simply makes off with his brain, having paralyzed and incapacitated the crew. They come to find Spock's body hooked up to machines, breathing, living, sort of, with no brain in it. And endlessly, Star Trek fans sort of poke fun at this online. I found a lot of people think it's the most laughable of all the episodes and that it's really ridiculous. I'm not sure why the animosity about Spock's brain. As an episode of Star Trek, it contains several very interesting aspects of science fiction and various science fiction tropes. One is the alien planet itself, which is discovered to be in H.G. Wellsian time machinian fashion divided between those which dwell on the surface and those which live underground. However, the added twist is that this is also a complete separation of the sexes. The women control a civilization underground with a few male slaves, and most men are left to live on the surface. So when children are born, male babies are left up in a cave for the primitive men to find and raise for the most part, while female babies are raised to be part of the community. It's a really interesting trope that gets both the H.G. Wellsian complete division of surface and subsurface cultures with the added twist of the battle of the sexes. I know it contained at least one part, one of my dad's favorite lines. He was a big Star Trek fan, when the primitive male describes the females as the givers of pain and pleasure. They just come for you. They give pain and pleasure, and then they're gone. Right? The givers of pain and pleasure. What a wonderful metaphor that I'm sure women could say the same thing about men at any time period in their history. So the story is very interesting from a science fiction perspective. The idea that it's so ridiculous that Spock's brain is removed. I mean, some of this is Star Trek. This is science fiction. It's got to require a suspension of disbelief that, yes, a civilization whose supercomputer runs on a brain, a humanoid brain, needs a brain, can't use one of their own because they've atrophied, except for their computer, the teacher, that makes them temporarily super intelligent. The idea that they just go out wandering and they look for a brain and they happen to find Spock's brain is sort of silly and requires suspension of disbelief. What I've always liked best about the show, and there's two things, this one episode. One is the way that the civilization they really took to the extreme the idea that ignorance is bliss. And not only did they become stupider over time because their cognitive abilities atrophied, like as McCoy described it, not using a muscle, but the computer mechanism of the teacher to give them knowledge when they needed it it seemed as if the civilization had decided that ignorance is bliss, and they allowed this atrophication to take place and left the computer so that when you needed to, you'd plug into the teacher and get the knowledge you needed to fix the problem that had emerged, but that the rest of the time you lived in this bliss of not knowing much at all, which is really, from a political science standpoint, I'm a nerd in that, is a really fascinating way to concoct to run a civilization. The second thing I really love about Spock's brain is it is one of the finest, most Kirkian of all Kirkism Kirk moments. The thing that defines James T. Kirk above all. And in my view, that is, he will do the right thing no matter what. No matter how implausible, how unrealistic, no matter what it ends up costing, Captain James T. Kirk will do what's right. This is something, on a side note, that I thought the Kelvin verse captured very well in 2009, despite all the bad press it has among Trekkers. the James T. Kirk that's like, we're going to hunt him down. We're outnumbered 1,000-1. It doesn't matter. He can't just take our captain and walk away. We're going to go. Well, what do we do when we catch him? I don't know. We'll figure it out when we get there. It's this very Kirk moment of bullcrap. We're going to go after the bad guy. And somehow, some way, we will get through it. Maybe not unscathed, but we will do the right thing, not the logical thing. And this is the aspect of Kirk that, and throughout the movies, we do see the cost of losing Spock, losing his son, losing his ship, all the various things that develop, right? So he's not a superhero that's perfectly unscathed, but he'll do the right thing. And this is perfectly captured early on in Spock's brain in the whole conversation in the sickbay with Dr. McCoy, when Kirk says, we're going to go find Spock's brain. And of course, McCoy, in this instance, with Spock incapacitated, gets to be the logical one. How are you going to do that? They froze us. They took his brain. They left. How do you fight a power like that? And where did they go? We don't know. Look out at the stars. Where in this whole universe are you going to start looking for Spock's brain? Right? So McCoy's the logical one in this instance. That's just ridiculous. I'd like to get it back too, but come on now. And Kirk, in the calm moment, not the overacting Kirk we're used to, the calm moment is like, I don't know, but we will. We'll find it. The technology to take it out exists. The technology to put it back exists. We'll find it. I don't know how, some way, somehow, but we're going to do it. That beautiful Kirk moment. And again, I don't know why the episode gets a bad rap. I think it has a lot of great science fiction concepts, many of which already existed. Like I said, H.G. Wells, but with its own unique twist, its own Star Trek application, and it really, from a standpoint of character, it really stands out as some of these fine moments in the episode.